Hi, welcome to Pharma Mama's first podcast. So I had the first idea for my podcast all planned out, and then boom, just like being a mother of three, something came up and organically here we are. The thing that derailed my plans was Brexit. I just happened to be talking to one of my closest friends on Saturday, June 25th, who lives in the UK, and mid-conversation, we started talking about Brexit. She's a PV professional, Pharmacovigilance, and we're talking about the kids and her new dog, and then boom, Brexit, and about husbands and travel, and boom, Brexit again. So I thought to myself, it would be way too selfish of me to keep this conversation to myself, and we need a Pharma Mama chat to share it. So that's why I'm here today with my great friend, Nimisha Katecha, Nims to me, who is one of the most preeminent PV professionals that I know and has her own company, Vigilance. And I'd like to welcome her today. So, hey, Nims, you there?
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. It's great to have you, especially on my first podcast. So thanks for taking the time. I know you're really busy, and it's late over there in the UK. I'm here in the US. So I thought a great way to start would be, just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what's pharmacovigilance, why we need it, what it is that you do, and a little bit about Vigilance.
Okay, so I'm Nimisha Katecha. I have my company, Vigilance. I've been doing pharmacovigilance now for coming up to 20 years, nearly. Lisa, that's 20 years I've known you. So pharmacovigilance is the practice of monitoring safety of marketed products. Once they've gone through clinical trials, they're approved, they get a license, they're placed on the marketplace, and people like you and I either get these on prescription or we buy them over the counter. Medicines sometimes can cause reactions, and pharmacovigilance people like myself monitor the safety and the quality of those medicines in the marketplace, and make sure that the benefit continues to outweigh the risk of having that product licensed in the marketplace for people like you and I. So we do, that's pharmacovigilance basically in a nutshell.
Great. Well, thank you for that. So basically you keep us safe. That's why we need you in a nutshell.
Yes. We're very serious people.
She's very serious, everybody, when she's doing her work. Great. And also I know that, so just to let people know a little bit, we met at Parexel. We worked together when I was back in the UK, and that's how we met. So Parexel, thank you for that. Shout out to you.
Yes, thank you.
You brought a great friend into my life. But also you do have your own company now, which I'm very super proud of about you. Tell us a little bit about Vigilance.
So Vigilance came about 2 and a bit years ago. As with all of us, I think we get to a point where we have to take what we and try and use it in our own environments for ourselves. So it's never an easy decision, but I left Parexel after about 16 years. I call it my mothership. So I decided I had to leave. Yes, I had to leave the mothership and try and make it out there on my own. This is 2 and a bit years ago. We set up Vigilance Limited, and we are a PV service provider across the industry. My clients range from CROs to pharmaceutical companies to generics companies, and just other consultants who might need 1 or 2 bits of the services that we offer. It's great fun. I have to say, I don't think I've regretted a single day since I made this decision. I've met so many amazing people, so many helpful people, and we just continue to grow from strength to strength.
Great. That's excellent. So I don't want to give the people too much because I am actually going to have you back. Like I said, the intention of my first podcast was not supposed to be talking about anything apart from what people do and why they do it. So that's just a little teaser for everybody out there. But Nims will be back to give you a bit more insight into her world. But for now, let's get to the real reason why we're here today. Brexit. That day was Friday the 24th of June when the people of England went out to vote. And I remember I was actually here watching it to my children, funnily enough, on the news and just watching the vote come in. And it looked as though everybody was going to vote to leave the EU. And obviously that's the result that came down. But leading up to the vote before that day, Nims, how were you feeling and what were your thoughts around the whole referendum?
It's really interesting because we were given the opportunity to vote on this referendum. It's probably, for all of us, the single most important vote. And I remember holding on to my voting card really tightly because there was no way I was going to miss that day.
Right.
People like us, I think we looked at the referendum in a probably a very different way to the majority of the Leavers. I was obviously Remain. We work really closely within the EU infrastructure, and just the thought of leaving Europe meant that, it's almost like the UK becomes a little island floating on its own.
Mm-hmm.
I know there are pros and cons, and there's a lot of hype out there at the moment. There's lots of discussion and supposition, and, it's all very... nobody has any. It's a guessing. It's anybody's guess right now where this is going to go. But there was never any doubt. In actual fact, there was never any doubt in my mind that we would remain in Europe. So waking up Friday morning for me, cup of tea in my hand, and I switched the telly on before I go to work. I got the shock of my life. I literally, I remember, it's like you sit there thinking, are you serious? Did that just happen?
So with that in mind, I picture you, because I know where you live with your tea, and I know where the TV is, and, your gown, your dressing gown and everything, your slippers. What were the first three thoughts? So you went to bed thinking, there's no way we're going to leave. You wake up and the boat is leave. What were the first three, if there were only three, if there were more, feel free to share. But what were the first three thoughts that came to your head when you realized what had just happened?
The very first thought in my mind was, oh my God. How can we not be in Europe? How is it even possible to think that the UK is ex-EU? The second thought almost immediately was, wow, I'm going to lose some of my contracts because this impacts my work in pharmacovigilance as a QPPV. Requires me to be within an EU, resident in the EU. And I could see those contracts going from me. I thought, okay. Right. And, that's bread and butter leaving you literally in an instant. I mean, it's not quite that dramatic, but in my mind it was at the time.
Right.
Thirdly, the ripple effects are so far and wide for my children. I mean, they're going to grow up. They're in the middle of university or just about to start university. By the time they finish in 3 years' time, where are they going to go? What are they going to do? I mean, one of my daughters was actually planning, once she's done her course in the UK, she wanted to go and further her education in France because she wants to go into the baking industry and patisserie making. We have no idea how that's going to pan out for her in 3 years' time. So these are the pieces that were crumbling for me, all around me. And work-wise, for sure. I mean, we're still reeling from this at work, but the impact on my kids, the impact on any holidays that we want to have. Right now, I can catch a flight and go to Rome for 3 days and come back, and I've had a holiday. What happens with that? I'm going to need visas. I'm going to need permits. I have no idea.
Right.
You know,
all those
it's really frightening. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember when we were chatting, and we were talking about about your business, because like you say, this is something that you've been building for the past 2.5 years, and you saw, I think you remember you saying you had to start considering things like, maybe changing your office to another location that's within the EU. Can you talk to me a little bit about those kind of things, those sort of changes that you would see if the vote to remain, if the decision to leave remains unchanged? What's the greater impact that it would have for you personally as a businesswoman with a PV company?
Yeah, I mean, just, clients come to us because we have European expertise. Right. Clients don't come to us because we know the UK legislation inside out. They come to us because we're Europe. We know the European directive. We know GVP. We know what happens and how to support and guide US clients or clients from Asia. We carry that expertise. Now, if I'm ex-EU, I am no longer considered an expert. Right. That's bottom line. Okay. In order for me to continue working in pharmacovigilance to any level of expertise, I have to move my office into Europe. So, like you say, Lisa, I walk into work on Friday. I left work on Thursday with a bunch of things on my to-do list, and on Friday that list went out the window. Because on Friday we were sitting there, me and my team, trying to understand what does this mean for intervigilance. It either means that we have to shut shop quite seriously, or we have to our survival instinct has to kick in, and we've got to start thinking on our feet. Right. To be honest, Brexit has kind of expedited our decision, if you like, to move into Europe. This was already in the plan. I've got people on board who are experts in various countries and various languages. So for us, it was a bit of an open arena where we want to go next. I think what Brexit has done is kind of made me do that now rather than in a year's time. I mean, I still have a couple of years before I have to make that move. Right. But for the sake of my clients who want our QPPV services, it's probably prudent that we start to do some of our work out of Europe again instead of relying just on the UK office. So these are the things that have had an impact on us. Again, with regards to having an office in Europe, I've got to now worry about who's going to man that office. I would go back and forth. I stay there some months at a time. How this whole there's a whole piece that has now been introduced into our own business strategy that simply wasn't there before. Right. A lot of things to think about. And in terms of your clients, because I'm sure that, they're looking to you as the subject matter expert in this field, and obviously it's brand new. It's really actually quite quiet. People aren't really saying very much because I feel like people are either shell-shocked or not really quite sure what the impact's going to be. But are you sort of getting any questions from clients? If so, what kind of questions? Or are they just a little bewildered themselves? No, we're getting a lot of questions, especially, from companies that we work with in third countries like India or US. Oh, wow. Or right. Even I was talking to a colleague this morning from Asia. Again, it's what's happening there. What are you guys? People from Europe, it's a case of what's going on the ground? Fill us in. What's happening? What are you guys going to do? How is this whole thing going to pan out for you? So people are concerned. People, in fact, to be honest, the ripple effects are as far as recruitment at the moment. Companies are the recruitment, the job openings have slowed down or stopped. Employees looking for work are pulling back their CVs, saying, I don't think I want to move right now. I'm happy where I am. Clients, like any new work that I might have in the pipeline, has stalled because clients are just kind of holding back, don't know what's happening. We just want to sit and watch. And that's what most of the industry is doing. You say very rightly that things are and there's like, it's a deafening silence, which is really quite eerie. There's bits of news floating around on LinkedIn here and there, but people in general haven't come together and brought their voice to the table. People are kind of holding back and waiting for the authorities to guide them or somebody to make that first move. So, what we've done right off the bat is create a group on LinkedIn where we're asking people to join this group. It's called UK QPPDs for the EU. It's not just for PV. Any of you, anybody that wants to join, please come and join that group. Bring your voice to the group. I think the more people that start talking about this, the easier the transition will become, because people don't really have a plan B in mind. Nobody expected this to happen, and therefore plan B was never on the cards. Companies like mine are small enough to be able to react to change quickly, but the bigger, more cumbersome companies cannot afford to react quickly. They have to kind of stop and watch and wait. And by the time they start to create perhaps a steering committee to even look at Plan B, they're going to be well into 2 years.
Right.
So yeah, it's quiet, but hopefully people will have a voice through this group on LinkedIn.
Right. So, and I think let's not undermine where this group came from. So, obviously, as always, you recognize that there was a void and you started this group, correct, on LinkedIn. So what was the name of the group again, if you can just reiterate?
So the group is called UK QPPDs for the EU. Primarily, it's the hardest hit, I think, from my perspective, are people like myself who act as EU QPPDs. I mean, we're literally going to lose that job, lose that role. In other impacts across the pharma industry and across pharmacovigilance, and obviously R&D as well, will be felt. We will have that across the board with how we do expedited reporting, where we report to, what the whole scenario is going to look like. When we talk about UK following, the European directive, I mean, we literally at the moment have no legislation apart from the directive. So it's all of that starting from scratch. And this is the group, this is where we want people to come and talk about those things, because, we've got members, thankfully, it's like I was saying, people are so welcoming and so approachable once they know that you're serious about what you do. There is so much expertise. There are so many members here at the moment who can offer some guidance or offer some opinion or thought that might help companies or consultancies or individuals who have some concerns about what's going to happen with, if this happens to the UK, what's happening to business on a daily basis.
So that's it. So what are you aiming to do with this group? So I know you have the group. Obviously, it's a place where people can voice concerns, ideas. Is there anything else that you want to do apart from just having the group on LinkedIn?
Well, it's funny you should ask, because we're actually organising a conference. It's happening 27th of September. It's in central London. Where
so what was that date?
We are. I'm sorry, 27th of September.
Okay, 27th of September. Okay.
Yeah. Where we are getting experts together. Industry leaders will be speaking on Brexit and the impact of Brexit on the pharma industry. So across the board in PV, regulatory and commercial, we have a speaker who's very kindly agreed to come in from the Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committee, PRAC. We will hear firsthand, what their thoughts are, what they're planning to do, how worried they are, what they're thinking, where they're heading. Hopefully we'll have a representative from the MHRA on board as well, who can, again, just offer some kind of official statement on what the MHRA is also thinking and how they're reacting to this potential change. So that conference, again, it's a platform for people to come and voice their concerns, talk to these world-class leaders, bounce ideas around, tell us what your worries are, tell us what you're concerned about, and hopefully you'll find the right people and experts to help guide you, to help you understand what that plan B ought to be moving forward. Because between you and me and these four walls, to be honest, I think we will be leaving Europe. We just don't know to what extent, and we don't know what the agreements will be in the future, but UK is definitely leaving Europe. I can't see a reversal of that vote happening.
Right. That's excellent. And I think it's just good for people to know that there is something happening, because like you said, over here in the US, it has been very, very quiet. It doesn't seem to be talked about a lot. So I think this, the conference that we put on, I think that would be an excellent platform, and hopefully we see people from around the globe attending, because there'll be something there for everybody as well. So how can people, find out? Well, I know you're on LinkedIn. I know you have your website. So how can people contact you, first of all, just for anything PV related, and especially about this conference that you've got coming up? How can they get details, get hold of you, anything that you've got for us?
Well, definitely through LinkedIn. If you could also give people my email address, I'd be quite happy for that to happen. I think LinkedIn, my website, again, there is a form on the website. Please, by all means, complete that form, get in touch that way. Any which way, really. I can give you all my contact details to pass on to people who might be interested. And I think having the US clients also kind of waking up to the impact of this on their products, on their services that they get from the UK, I think it's really important. I know, very often clients can just shift their work to any one of those 27 member states, but the expertise and the wealth of knowledge and the world-class leaders, frankly, the majority of them sit in the UK, and the bulk of that group will lose value, and that's actually really, really sad to see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just for everybody listening, I will put all of Nimisha's links and contact details along with this podcast. But just in case you want to look her up right now on LinkedIn, it's Nimisha Kotecha. That's N for November, I-M for mother, I-S-H-A, K-O-T-E-C-H-A. You can find her using that name on LinkedIn. And her website is www.intuvigilance, which is INTUVIGILANCE.com. So for those of you that I know are itching to get at Nimisha immediately, there you have it. And you can also refer to the website. So, Nims, I'd like to thank you so much for your time, for bringing our little personal chat to the Pharma Mama chat room. I, for one, have really appreciated your insight, your expertise, your professionalism. I always learn so much when I speak to you, which is why I didn't want to keep it to myself, because I'm now learning to share now that we have the blog. And I'm hoping that you'll join us again for one of our other segments where we talk about just PV on its own. But thank you so much. Good luck with the conference. I for one, will be there. Maybe hopefully we can stream some of it live. But I think it would be great. So thank you for your time, Nims.
Thank you, Lisa. It's been wonderful talking to you. Thanks a lot.
Okay, speak to you soon. Take care. And thank you all for listening. Any questions or comments, please feel free to email us. Thank you. Bye-bye.